Hey guys, so today I'm back with like my kind of second instalment in the whole top 5 of this thing. So I did my top 5 classic Gothic texts, and today I'm doing my top 5 Shakespeare plays. So yeah, let me know what kind of like top 5s you'd like to see, because I really enjoy doing them and they really kind of make me think about what I love, what I don't like in a genre, and like kind of bring me back to books that or plays in this case, that I've loved and kind of left behind. First up is Hamlet, which I've got like the longest copy in the world of, and I think it's because it's got the kind of like an explanation of what the words mean at the bottom of the page. But Hamlet's the story of the Prince of Denmark whose father dies, and Hamlet's in mourning. He's going to be the next king of Denmark, but he's got an uncle that would much rather be the king, and it all comes out that the uncle was actually the person that had killed Hamlet's father, and there's a lot of death in it. This is the one which has Ophelia in it, which is she's kind of like this virginal character who falls in love with Hamlet and eventually thinks that Hamlet doesn't like her, so kills herself, which is quite a... it's an upsetting death. Like Shakespeare's tragedies usually, because they get so extreme, everybody dies, everybody stabs everybody, it all gets over the top like Julius Caesar. I just don't even know what's going on. But Ophelia's death is one that you do feel quite sorry for her in, because she's separate from the tragedy in a way. She's very rarely on stage with too many characters, and I always have felt like she's a bit of an outsider in the play. And this is, Hamlet is the play that I'm pretty sure he has the skull in. It's the one that David Tennant did, and basically I think Hamlet sees the ghost of his dead dad and finds out that his uncle had killed his father, and yeah, everybody stabs everybody. It's very dramatic, it's very bloody, and it's kind of like what Shakespeare's plays are all about. And we've got the to be or not to be scene, which is incredible. I think the whole passage below that is just really powerful, and it's just, yeah, it's all about living or dying, and I guess that's kind of what all the play is about. Right, I'm not gonna lie, most of these are tragedies. So next up, I don't have a copy of it because I've got like a big Shakespeare anthology thing with all of them in. But it's Romeo and Juliet, so this is probably the most well known, it's the most kind of quoted, it's the most kind of integrated into popular culture, and I think it's got a lot to do with that Leonardo DiCaprio film, because that is beaut. But yeah, Romeo and Juliet, the star-crossed lovers, they're from opposing families. There's the Capulets and the Montagues, or Montagues, I've never known how to pronounce that word. And basically they fall in love. They're meant to be like 14, which is really kind of, it's that dramatic teenage love that I think everybody has, where your world's going to end if they don't love you back. And I just love the fact that Shakespeare's kind of brought that all into a play, and I love this one, less because of the romance, because it's all, I think she's 14, maybe she's 14, he's a lot older. It's all a bit weird, and you're like, over dramatic, but it's the futility of them missing each other on their deathbeds and not understanding the plot. And it's kind of, I feel like there's a bit of the comic aspect of Shakespeare's plays in that, whereas obviously it is a tragedy, they both die, it's sad. We want them to live, we want them to be happy, but it's a Shakespeare play, so it's not going to happen. But yeah, it's just the like near miss, and it's frustrating. But I think it's kind of, it reminds me of a comedy, because you've got the figure of the priest there that's kind of like going in between them, and that's, you've always got this kind of like fool in a Shakespeare comedy that goes between some of the main characters and absolutely screws everything up. But I just, yeah, I love the fact that it's so integrated in our like popular culture, and now I really want to read it again, because it's just, I don't know, I just didn't expect myself to like it as much as I did when I read it, and I don't think it's as much of a tragedy, or as much as a like strict tragedy, as some of his other plays. I'm trying to keep calm. The Taming of the Shrew is the only comedy on this list, because it's it's not that I don't find Shakespeare's comedies funny, it's that I like to feel things, and his tragedies make me feel things more than his histories or his comedies. His histories are alright, I find them quite comic. They've always got a comic character like Falstaff, or I can't think of any. I think Richard III is like quite a comic character in my opinion. But the Taming of the Shrew is one that makes me angry, and it kind of is sort of amusing. But if you've seen the film 10 Things I Hate About You, which also is my favourite film of all time because it's incredible, it's loosely based on the Taming of the Shrew. So you've got Katerina, who's the shrew in this, like a shrewish woman is somebody who's obstinate and she's defiant, and basically Kat from 10 Things I Hate About You, like grungy, but obviously not in Shakespeare's time. I don't know what she would have worn. And then she's got a really pretty younger sister called Bianca, and all the men want to marry Bianca, but their father won't let anybody marry Bianca until her older sister Katerina is wedded off. So there's this big plot by all of Bianca's suitors to get Katerina married, and Katerina basically ends up with this guy that's just as malicious as she is. It's kind of this romance of, kind of like a Heathcliff and Cathy thing, I guess, where, yeah, she's like, you're a bellend, but I'm a bellend, so it's all good. Until they get married and he fights with the priest and then tries to make her not a shrew by starving her and taking away her clothes. So that's kind of where it goes downhill. But it's interesting to see that was kind of, he was like, I'm your husband now, so you can't get away with it anymore. You will do what I want. And it's interesting to see that it's kind of justified. I think there's definite layers, and it's not just like strictly misogynistic, although obviously it is quite. Right, we're going to do Macbeth next because I'm going to save my all-time favourite for the last. Although Macbeth's pretty close. This is the first Shakespeare play I've ever read, and I read it when I was doing actually, I think the first Shakespeare play I ever read was Much Ado About Nothing. This was the first Shakespeare play that I ever kind of understood. Much Ado About Nothing was something that I was forced to read in year 9. I didn't understand the language, I didn't understand the plot, I didn't find it engaging. Macbeth I had a really good teacher for, and she actually explained it, and it kind of like sparked an interest in me that didn't go away. So Macbeth is the play with the witches in. It like brings that kind of element of fantasy into Shakespeare's plays, which is prevalent in most of them. You've got Lady Macbeth, who's an absolutely like, she's a powerhouse. Macbeth, who he's just overcome, that's his hubris is his downfall, and his ambition is his downfall, and basically him and Lady Macbeth concoct all these plans. Lady Macbeth ends up killing people, and you realise that she doesn't have a conscience, whereas Macbeth does. She talks about the fact that she would bash her own child's brains out and turn her breast milk to poison. Like she gives no fucks. She is savage, and I just think it's just incredible to see this. She's not the witch. She's just some kind of weird woman demon thing, and obviously she's got the this is the play where I think it's Macbeth's hands, where he's like, no, all of Neptune's seas can wash this blood off of me, and it's that idea that like killing somebody stays on your hands forever, and it's, yeah, I think it's one of the earliest examples of that, and obviously that's used throughout. Like, I don't know how many crime thrillers I've seen where people think there's blood on their hands after they've killed somebody when their hands are clean, and it's all coming back from this. And you've got the 3 witches. Obviously there's the 3 kind of like destinies or fates of like ancient Greek culture, but I think, yeah, like hags and witches and stuff in here are just what we think of as hags and witches. They've got potions, and they're doing the hubble bubble boil and trouble, which always makes me think of Mildred, the children's TV show. I think I've read Macbeth 3 or 4 times now, and I think this is the "Is this a dagger I see before me" one. I can't remember if I've seen it in theatre, but if I would like to. if I've seen it, I would like to see it again. If I haven't, I would like to see it. Okay, so finally is Titus Andronicus, which is one of Shakespeare's least well-known plays. It's something that people have suggested he might not have written because it's so kind of primitive in comparison to his other tragedies, but then a lot of other people counter that by saying this was his experimental work, this was one of his early works, this is why it's different. And I got to see this in the RSC in Stratford, so obviously Shakespeare lived in Stratford. It was really cool to see something in his hometown. Titus Andronicus is a very, very brutal story of, if I can remember the plot that would be great. I think it starts off and there's a general and he basically pisses a lot of people off. He's got a daughter and I think he remarries and his wife's sons, so his stepsons, basically rape his daughter and cut her hands off so she can't, they cut her hands off, they cut her tongue out and they rape her. So then she can't tell anybody about it, and it's like one of the most disgusting scenes I've ever seen in my life. But she ends up using a stick with her stump to like write their names out, and they get fooled, and it's one where literally everybody dies at the end. There's a big, her father finds out that she's been raped and had her tongue cut out and had her hands cut off, and who's done it? So he holds this big kind of buffet thing and basically has a bit of a Sweeney Todd moment and puts the stepsons in the pork pies, well, not really pork pies, and feeds it to everybody, and then everybody kills everybody and pretty much everybody dies at the end. It's like the bloodiest scene of a Shakespeare play I've ever seen. And I've explained the plot really badly and I've probably forgotten like half of it. But these boys' mother, she's like some, again, malicious demon lady, and I think she gets fed her sons as well. But unlike Lady Macbeth, she would not bash their brains out and she loves them, they're like her world, and it kind of ruins her life when she eats them, which is, I feel like that's fair enough. So yeah, that's my 5 top Shakespeare plays. This has been really rambly and I didn't intend for it to be. I wanted it to be clear cut, but it's been so long since I've read some of them, especially Titus. But they're all really, really amazing and I would definitely recommend reading all of them. I feel like there are definitely some Shakespeare plays you could overlook because they're just, like the Merry Wives of Windsor, I actually do quite like that one, but like I definitely don't think you need to read Much Ado About Nothing or A Midsummer Night's Dream. They're like my least favourite ever. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you again soon.